What's going on YouTube? WestHobbiesRC. So today we are back with a video a lot of you have asked for, and that is how to track your blades. So in this video we're going to go over how to get a perfect blade tracking on every helicopter on the bench without ever having to fly it. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get started. So tracking your blades is very important. As you know, both of your blades need to be in perfect track. Now, this doesn't matter if it's a 2-blade or a 3-blade. We'll go over both. Now, a couple things you will need. The most important thing, a pitch gauge. You need a pitch gauge. Now, the old school way to do it was this reflective tape, and you would put the tape on the blade, take the helicopter into a hover, stare at it with the rotor line dead to your eyes, and you would see a high blade and a low blade, and then you would adjust your linkage. Now, that is old school. You don't need to do that anymore. So take your reflective tape and get rid of it. Don't need it. You need a pitch gauge. Now, you either need the blades on the machine, or if you have a 3D printer, these are on Thingiverse, you can print blades, and these would go in here. Now for setup, this is what I use so my blades aren't on the machine just in case it spools up. So I recommend taking your blades off, using some kind of insert, or if you have a crash set of blades, you can cut them off real short and use that crashed blade as your little stub piece. So let's get this model powered up. Let's go over what we need to do in the radio to get this where we are going to track our blades. So now we have our model powered up. You can hear our fans running, servos, everything are running. So what we need to do is go into our transmitter. So we need to go to model setup. Now this is the exact same if you are using V-Bar, Icon, Spirit, whatever flybarless system you're using, you need to do the same step. You need to go into servo setup mode. So on V-Bar, we're going to come down to where we see our trim values. We're going to push and hold. That is going to lock our servo 0. Now, what's very, very important here is that your servos are 90 degrees. So when setting your pitch, you're zeroed on both blade grips, your servos need to be done. So from servo to swash needs to be completely set up. So your servo's 90 degrees, your swash plated level. Now that is done, that is done setup. That has nothing to do with the tracking. But once that is done, we can now officially track our blades. So we tip the helicopter. So you can see these marks, hash marks. Now you can go by those. They're not 100% accurate. So what we want to do, we know our servos are centered. We are in the centering mode. We can set the transmitter aside. We no longer need it. We have our pitch gauge on, and you can see I purposely messed my blade grips up to show you. We are at negative 0.5. So we are a half a degree off negative. Now, we are going to be adjusting our linkage from the swash plate to the blade grip. This is a turnbuckle, so you can go left or right, and that will either give you positive or it will give you negative. So you are going to turn your buckle one way or the other while watching that number on the pitch. So we are -5. We're going to give it a turn to the right, and we went wrong. So now we need to go to the left, back to where we were, another quarter turn, and then you're going to keep adjusting that turnbuckle until we get to 0, or as close to 0 as possible. So you can tell right now we're at 0.2, 0.1. Now these pitch gauges aren't 110% accurate, so I would call that good. 0.1. You can get 0 perfect, but we know this blade is pretty much perfect. Now, if we look at that hash mark again, you run your fingernail there, you can see that they're pretty much lined up. So now we know this blade. Now make sure your blade is in line with your boom. So now we can take this pitch gauge off, rotate it. We need to go to this blade now and do the exact same thing. So now we rotated it. We are exactly negative 0.6, so we're a little farther off on this blade. So we are going to do the exact same thing. We are going to come to our turnbuckle. I'm using a MIP 1.5 millimeter driver holding on both ends. And we are going to turn by holding the blade at the same time. We're going to adjust this linkage until we get 0.1 or 0 on the dot. So we're going to give it a turn. And you're only doing quarter turn at a time or so. You just need to be very, very small adjustments. kind of rock it out. So we're at 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 0. So I would call that perfectly 0, 0. Again, these pitch gauges can jump in the center. They're not 1000% accurate, but this way of tracking your blades will get you a perfectly in-track model every time without ever having to fly it. You can do it right on the bench. We look at our hash marks. Look at that. We're perfect in the middle. Everything lines up. So now we know our blades are perfectly in line with each other. Now, if you have a 3-blade, it's the same principle. We'll grab a 3-blade. Also, make sure that you zero your pitch gauge to something on the machine. I like to use the can of the motor. I know my table is 100% level. I built this table specifically level so I can zero my pitch gauge out on the table. Or if you want to make sure that your blade tracking is zeroed out to your machine, do it on the motor. But now let's grab a 3-blade and we'll show the same process. So now on a 3-bladed head, this is Matt's raw KSC that I'm putting together for him. But on a 3-bladed head, you will notice there is numbers. So you have 1, 2, and 3. So you're going to do the same thing. Your servo center is going to be 90 degrees. Servo to swash is done. You're going to put your blade in line with the boom. And then you are going to start with blade grip number 1. So you would have your blade on. You would adjust your linkage right here. Positive and negative, get it to 0. Then when you're done with that, you would rotate the head till you get to blade number 2. And you do the same thing. You adjust your linkage till you get to 0. Then you rotate the head again till you get to number 3. Adjust your linkage till it is 0. And then all 3 of your blades are completely zeroed out. Now this doesn't matter the size of the machines, 250, 300, 450, etc., 700. The same principle for all machines. Now, when you have a machine such as the Raw 420 that has non-adjustable turnbuckles, this is the original 420 direct drive, and if you notice, this is not a turnbuckle, it's just a threaded rod. So it is very hard to get exact 0 degrees at mid-stick. So you can hold the center, rotate it just a little bit, and you can get close 0.0 or 0.3 and try to match both blades, and you will have the same principle. So regardless of the size of the helicopter, big to small, setting 0 pitch is the same. Just make sure that your flybarless unit is in servo setup mode, your swash plate is level, and then work from your linkage to your swash plate to your blade grip. Just use a pitch gauge on the bench. I can promise you every time you will get perfect dead 0 tracking. You will not have to worry about using some of this reflective tape. Line used to sell these little small pieces that you put on the blade, take it off, get it into a dead eye level hover. This blade is low, this blade is high, then you gotta take off land, take off land, take off land. That's a thing of the past. Use a digital pitch gauge and you will be perfect. And this is just a cheap TL90 from Amazon. I think it's under $20. I've been using it for 3-4 years now. It's worked great. Don't need a super expensive pitch gauge to do this. So there you guys go, a video that you have all been asking for, how to track your blades to get a perfect 0 degrees and not have to worry about tracking every time. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Remember, Patreon and PayPal is linked in every video description if you'd like to help support me. Take care and have a great day.